introduce you now to Eileen Davidson. She is an amazing advocate. She's officially amazing, according to me. And she has a wonderful website she's just put in the chat. And she also, spoiler alert, has rheumatoid arthritis too. So she's going to share about fatigue. Thank you so much, Eileen.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. It's a complete honor. Now, I recorded my session just because I live with fatigue, so there's brain fog, and just to make sure I was on time. So if you do have a question, because I'm actually not talking live, I can answer your questions in the chat if it goes over. So I'm just going to start sharing my screen.
Hello, welcome to my presentation at the Arthritis Life Hack Extravaganza. I will be discussing chronic fatigue with you today. First, I want to start off with a land acknowledgement, and I apologize if I brutally say some of these wrong. I respectfully acknowledge that I am on the traditional unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Coquitlam nations. A little bit about me and why I'm here today. My name is Eileen Davidson. I go by Chronic Eileen on the internet. I am a patient advocate from Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm a patient partner with Arthritis Research Canada, the Canadian Institute of Health Research, Doctors of BC, and the Arthritis Society. When I'm not advocating for arthritis on those boards, I'm often writing about my experience as an advocate or partnering in research or as a mom on Creaky Joints, my own blog, Chronic Eileen, and sometimes Healthline. Today, I'm going to be going over what fatigue is, what my triggers are, what helps, how it affects my mental health, how it affects parenting, and how it affects my daily life. As you can see in this what you don't see photo, I have more than one condition that's going to cause chronic fatigue. I also want to start off with the arthritic rule of thumb. That is, what works for one may not work for another. So I'm going to be talking about what has worked for me or what I've heard work through my community. Mostly it's worked through me, but I just want to know, or you to all know that this is what works for me. Now, what does fatigue feel like? Fatigue isn't just being tired. It robs us of our ability to think clearly and of our motivation. Your body feels like it's powering off like a dying battery. Fatigue turned my world upside down. All humans experience a feeling of tired, but chronic fatigue is so much more than getting too little sleep or needing rest at the end of the day. Let's get this out of the way. Chronic fatigue is a lot more than just being tired. It's a serious symptom of many different illnesses. Chronic fatigue impacts you both physically and mentally. It doesn't go away with rest. It's far more intense than what I remember from my healthier, younger years before chronic illness. I remember feeling indestructible, staying out all night, drinking and dancing, then going to work the next day on minimal sleep and the faint aroma of whatever my poison was the night before on my breath. Ultimately, I discovered that events, fun, and work don't always match up. Neither does the cycle of chronic illness. Today, I can do next to nothing one day, and the following day, I need to stay in bed with an invisible blanket of fatigue weighing down on me like a ton of bricks. Even the most mundane tasks are exhausting and excruciating, both physically and mentally. Fatigue turned my world upside down, and here's why. Fatigue is debilitating. Sometimes my pain is manageable, which means it's there, but it's nothing I can't handle. Or my medications have kicked in for pain relief, but fatigue is impossible to manage with medication or treatment. I can't put ice or heat on my fatigue. Why is fatigue so debilitating? While living with chronic pain is incredibly debilitating all by itself, fatigue can have an even bigger impact on my daily life. It has taken me years to understand, treat, and navigate. Living with fatigue is incredibly frustrating and stressful because it impacts so much of what I'm capable of doing each day. Fatigue is a major reason I do not hold down a normal job and went on disability at age 29. I've learned to adapt to being in constant pain, but fatigue is much harder to push through. Your body feels like it's a battery dying. No matter how many lists I juggle to make life easier as a single mother with chronic illness, life is always moving a lot faster than my fatigue can keep up with. I'm moving at arthritic speed. Fatigue is misunderstood. People don't understand I'm in too much pain to do that. Much more easier than I'm too tired to do that. When I speak about my fatigue being worse than my pain, it's usually brushed off while the focus is always on how much pain I'm in. Having people, including medical professionals, not believe when you say fatigue impacts your ability to do something just makes you feel alone, diminished, confused, and lost. You wouldn't call someone recovering from a heart attack or undergoing cancer treatment lazy, yet chronic fatigue, which is due to underlying medical reasons, has this way of making those impacts appear lazy. Fatigue robs us of our ability to think clearly and of our motivation. We are not being lazy when we can't get out of bed, go to work, run errands, or play with our children. We are physically and mentally unable to. You would never call someone dealing with a debilitating illness lazy if you knew what they were going through on an everyday basis. Some of our most severe symptoms are invisible, which is part of the problem. Fatigue makes me flaky. Fatigue annoys others, not just myself. I know I made plans with you 2 hours ago, but sometimes fatigue is sudden and without warning. I despise hearing just push through it when my body's fighting itself inside and people are only judging what they can see on the outside. You can't see my fatigue until I'm asleep or missing again. Fatigue makes self-care difficult. I'm too tired to prepare food for myself, especially breakfast, which then makes me even more fatigued. Too tired to shower daily, let alone wash my face or keep up with regular beauty routine, which I once religiously did as an esthetician. It wasn't just myself I was making look good, it was other people too. But at least now my hair is healthier from not being, washing it every day. But thank goodness for dry shampoo. Taking care of yourself turns into a full-time job and involves being consistent. Ironically, to treat fatigue, I have to first make it worse by forcing myself to exercise to get my heart rate up, while not overdoing it or hurting my joints, when really all I want to do is eat cupcakes. Fatigue makes me neglectful. Fatigue makes simple things like keeping up with laundry or dishes a constant struggle. I'm balancing my illness, work, parenting, self-care, and all the never-ending housework that just piles up. That's overwhelming even without an illness. Fatigue makes me dreaming of having a maid or personal assistant. And I'm counting down the years till my son is old enough so he can help out more. We're not there yet. Fatigue is expensive and without a cure. As much as I love coffee, it just doesn't touch this fatigue. There's no cure or fix for fatigue. I spent more money than I'd like to admit searching for things that work, but I still come up short and tired. Fatigue is lonely. When consumed by fatigue, watching the beautiful world move by without you feels like you're trapped inside your own visible prison. Fatigue makes me nervous to meet new people or have a social life. It forces me to question what I can offer others in a relationship of any kind. How do I explain it? I'm terrified of forgetting what I was about to say or not being able to process what someone just said or being too tired to participate. Parenting harder than it already is. Any parent knows parenting is hard and exhausting. The energy of a child and chronic illness do not match, not even close. Fatigue makes me feel like a bad mother. I struggle at night to even have the energy to read to my 9-year-old son or do something with him. And that guilt is totally unbearable sometimes. But he still loves me and has shown incredible empathy at such a young age. How do I explain chronic fatigue to those who don't have it? Well, everyone gets tired from time to time. Even the healthiest of healthy people feel tired. That's just what happens to our bodies. This might be why someone who hasn't experienced chronic fatigue might not understand the differences between tiredness, laziness, and fatigue. If you've never experienced the wall that fatigue creates inside you, blocking your ability to function normally, you might not understand what life with fatigue is like. When I was healthy, I'd say the closest feeling I ever came to fatigue before my diagnosis were you had the flu and it knocked you out for a short period. You were too sick to get much done and definitely too sick to work or play with your children. You had too much fun and too many drinks one night. Then you couldn't get off the couch the entire next day. You felt so weak and tired, you had to call in sick and make up some illness. But those go away. Chronic fatigue resembles these situations, but it's worse because it doesn't get better with medicine, rest, caffeine, a greasy breakfast, or time. Now, clearly having chronic fatigue has a huge impact on my mental health. What's more, fatigue has this insidious way of creeping into and changing my personality and mood. Living with chronic fatigue often makes me feel a number of very uncomfortable emotions like irritable, lonely, flaky. I can't always predict when fatigue will make me cancel at the last minute or take longer than I need to do a task. It makes me forgetful. Brain fog or cognitive dysfunction soars high when fatigue is high. I'm often full of guilt. I feel lazy and slow when I'm moving at this arthritic speed. I'm embarrassed. I get depressed. I get anxious. I get stressed and I become overwhelmed. And I will tell you right now, that all makes fatigue worse. A lot of my fatigue can also come from depression and anxiety. Now I'm going to say what causes all of my fatigue because it's not just rheumatoid arthritis. I'm also living with other conditions. Now, if you are feeling overly tired and nothing seems to help you, you might be living with an underlying health condition. Google diseases that cause fatigue, and you'll see a host of them: autoimmune diseases, fibromyalgia, diabetes, thyroid, mental health conditions, and many more. The culprits to my fatigue are rheumatoid arthritis, anxiety, depression, fibromyalgia, nutritional deficiencies such as I've been low iron, low vitamin D, and one really insane one for me was copper. Other things that cause my fatigue could be insomnia, when fatigue doesn't let you sleep, or the medications. It's either a medication hangover or the nightmare before your infusion day. So I always find the week before my infusion to be really difficult because my medications start to wear off and I am super tired. Now, those are my causes. Now, what are my triggers? Fatigue is always present in my life, but over time I've learned that different situations can bring it out more. These include medications. So sometimes our biologics or DMARDs or antidepressants, whatever we're taking, can cause more fatigue. And that's very, very annoying. I wish that they would come up with a medication that really does target fatigue in a safe way. Another thing I've gone over is comorbidities. So I was blaming a lot of my fatigue on rheumatoid arthritis at first, but then when I got my diagnosis of fibromyalgia and also depression and anxiety, it made me realize that even if my RA is well treated, some of my symptoms like pain and fatigue can be because of my comorbidities or irreversible joint damage. That's for the pain mostly. Another huge trigger for fatigue is poor diet or my loss of appetite. So, I struggle a lot to eat in the morning, and that makes me more fatigued. Dehydration is a major one. Like, actually, the first thing I go to when I'm feeling fatigue is I ask myself, have I had enough water today? Because surprisingly, getting a bit of water in you, if you haven't really been drinking any, can clear a little tiny bit of that fogginess. Another trigger to my fatigue is lack of exercise or too much exercise. So if I don't exercise, I typically go to bed earlier. I have more pain. I have a harder time staying asleep. And then if I do too much exercise, then I'm taking a 2-3 hour nap shortly after doing something too strenuous. Another factor for contributing to fatigue is alcohol, for sure. It doesn't help me sleep, so therefore I have a bad sleep and I'm far worse the next day. And sometimes I can have just a few sips of alcohol and feel like I need to go to bed. Cannabis, while it helps with pain and symptoms, it can also cause tiredness, indica, or it could be very demotivating. So that one's hit or miss, sometimes it really works for me, helps me, but sometimes it also just kind of makes me lazy. The weather, I always do worse in the winter. And I bet there's a lot of people here who can say they are the same. So yeah, winter is really bad. I tend to get tired earlier. I want to go to bed at 4:30 once the sun's gone down. Or if it's really hot, that can also make me feel sluggish and tired. Rainy days, foggy days, those all have I feel like this drop inside of me. It's like pressure and fogginess, and it's often when there's, I live in Vancouver, which is a rainforest, so happens a lot. And then huge trigger is stress. Anytime I go through a stressful event, it's like a few hours later, I need to have a nap. My muscles get really tense, so I try to keep things as stress-free as possible. And then other factors that contribute to my fatigue include my menstrual cycle, infections. If you are suddenly more fatigued than normal, watch out for infections. I didn't really understand that when I was first diagnosed, and I had a pelvic infection from my Mirena IUD, and I didn't realize that was why I was so tired. I thought it was just my RA, but it was my RA and an infection. And then environmental factors such as like pollution or dust and all sorts of things can trigger fatigue. It's hard to get away from fatigue. Now you're probably wondering, what helps me get through all of this? Well, first of all, I'm going to take a quick sip of my coffee because that's one thing. Okay. Even though nothing can completely alleviate my fatigue, there are some things that make it more manageable. If I don't treat it, it gets worse. And to combat my fatigue, my go-to habits include getting regular exercise and movement. Now, I have exercises for the good days and the not so good days because a little bit of moving usually helps. Eating healthy, staying hydrated, keeping a sleep routine, resting but not getting too much rest. So I try to limit my rest in the daytime between 20 to 40 minutes. Otherwise, I'm going to probably be increasing my fatigue. However, I do have days where the fatigue is so high, I have to take a few naps. And on those days, well, you just have to be kind to yourself. Okay, so getting fresh air and sunlight. One trick that I found when I'm feeling very fatigued in the morning is to get outside and get some sunlight and get some fresh air as soon as possible. Now, in areas where there isn't much sun or it's still dark out, even one of those sunlights that you can buy off of Amazon help a bit. Minimizing stress and keeping things simple. I'm still trying to practice that one as a single mother. Not the easiest. Tracking my health and keeping a symptom journal. I will go more into that, but that helped me so much with my fatigue. Now, writing things down that are important also helps, because it helps you kind of figure out how much you need to do in a day and remember what you need to do. I find also reminding others to remind me of things that are important helpful. So I tell them, like, I have a chronic illness, I'm forgetful, I'm fatigued, work with me. Taking certain vitamins as supplements. These help, but they are no means a cure, and be sure to speak to your doctor about what might be right for you before you take anything. I don't think you should just read an article off the internet and say, okay, I'm going to take all these vitamins. I believe you should talk to a trained professional. However, my go-to for fatigues is obviously keeping up with my vitamin D. Being in Canada, I need to do that. B vitamins, iron if my iron is low, and green tea. So it's the same thing, like the arthritic rule of thumb. What works for one may not work for another. If you have anything that works for you, please put it in the chat. Now I'm going to go off some little daily life with fatigue tips. Number one, you're your own advocate. You have to be your own advocate. You have to be the one to take care of yourself and to reach out for help and to do everything. Unfortunately, no one else is going to do it for you. Now, that's difficult being a single mother sometimes. So there's things that I do to try and make it through the day with chronic fatigue. What's really helped me is meal prepping during my best hours, taking frequent short little breaks. So when I, doing my hair, I'll do 5 minutes and then I'll go sit down for a few minutes, work on a computer for 5-10 minutes, and I'll get up and go back. I also plan rest days, usually Saturday, Sunday, or my rest days, or I pick one of those to be a fun day and then the rest day. I use a shower chair so that it makes, fatigue when you need to rest after taking a shower. So that's actually helped me and my balance. Knowing your best hours for socializing or appointments. So I usually try and keep all my appointments between 10 and 3 because those are my best hours, and those are the hours that less people are out. So I feel safer because I'm immunocompromised, and also it's just easier. Like if I have to take a busy bus or something, it's painful. Also avoiding too much alcohol and sugar and fried foods and all the actually yummy stuff. Ask for and delegate tasks. So if I have something to do that I know is going to be very strenuous for me, I will ask for help, or I will get my son to help me. Or then delivery services have been a lifesaver for me. I've done HelloFresh, I've done Uber Eats, I've done Amazon, all sorts of things. As long as it takes some of carting from point A to point B and carrying things and that, you can save a lot of energy. So definitely take advantage of delivery services. They're so helpful for us. Learning to pace myself too. So that's, putting in those little frequent breaks, the resting, the writing down everything you need to do. And don't pack too much into one day. And if you do have to, ask for help, prepare ahead of time. And then get up once an hour and move for 5 to 10 minutes. This will help you not only with your fatigue, it will help you with your pain. You can just do a simple stretching or moving, walking around, going to the bathroom, getting a glass of water. Limit recreational screen time to 3 hours and use dry shampoo. So I think we all know that fatigue comes up when we have a bad night. We can't sleep. A lot of times we can't sleep because we're in too much pain, and this is called insomnia. Painsomnia means being unable to sleep because of pain that makes it difficult to fall or stay asleep. Some people with chronic pain are no stranger to painsomnia. Some struggle, like myself, with it nightly. Here's how my sleep issues are affected. I get fragmented sleep. I often wake up several times in the night, sometimes for a few minutes or sometimes for a few hours. Sometimes it's physical because of my body is in pain. If I wake up in the middle of the night, pain can make it too distracting to fall asleep. Other times it's mental because my mind is racing from the anxiety and stress of living with a chronic illness. Other issues play a factor too. Infections, side effects from medications, heat waves, you name it. Another one I've noticed with SSRIs or some meds is, or even just my hormones, is night sweats. Another thing that contributes to my fatigue or painsomnia is getting too much sleep. Some of the same things that can make me unable to sleep can also cause me to sleep too much. Sleeping too much can disrupt my life in a number of ways. Like I have to do a deadline, or I have to pick up my kid, or I need to clean, or I just want to have a normal functioning hours. And then I get fatigued and I start napping. And when I'm having bad fatigue, I need to nap during the day. It can really throw me off of my sleep schedule. And one of the best things we can do to ensure we stick to a regular sleep schedule is to go to bed at the same time each. Get enough sleep. Too much screen time in the evening, heavy meals, eating late at night, and even strenuous exercise shortly before bed can also make it difficult to fall asleep. So how do I tackle these sleep problems? Well, poor sleep impacts my health in many ways. And while my RA was responsible for a lot of my sleep problems, at the same time, getting proper sleep was also making my arthritis worse. Bouts of bad sleep make me become very forgetful. I have an increase in cognitive dysfunction or brain fog. I have more malaise. That flu-like feeling is common in inflammatory arthritis. Become more sedentary. I have more pain, stiffness, inflammation, experience more depression and anxiety and stress. I struggle to do all the tasks and errands I need to get through in the day, like cooking, cleaning, self-care, and I turn into a flake. So what do I do about this? Well, I have a sleep routine. I try to go to bed and get up at the same time every day. I have to shut all lights and devices off. I avoid alcohol and I use cannabis. I take a hot bath or shower if I'm hurting. I stretch. And I definitely don't dismiss my mental health. But the one thing that has actually really helped me sleep the best is regular exercise. How do you exercise with fatigue? Because that's going to be difficult. Well, one of the most important antidotes for fatigue is regular exercise. Bodies were made to move, and skeletal muscles is the largest organ in the body. Plus, exercise is the best treatment for stress, worry, and low mood. Physical activity. You have to perform a bunch of physical activities, a variety of intensities, which include moderate to vigorous aerobic physical activities, such that there is an accumulation of at least 150 minutes per week. You have to do muscle strengthening exercises twice a week. Several hours of light physical activity, including standing, is also in your physical activity. So that's important to remember. It's not just the time you spend exercising or working out in the gym. It's a good idea to get 7 to 9 hours of good quality of sleep on a regular basis. And then for your sedentary behavior, limit it to 8 hours or less a day. So that includes, like, if you work at home on a computer, try and spend a few more hours getting up. So no more than 3 hours of recreational screen time, and breaking up long periods of sitting as much as possible. Getting up every 5-10 minutes, or for 5-10 minutes every hour. Now, that's how you kind of say, okay, I need to be more active in the day. This is what I can do for rest. This is what I can do in my physical activity, and kind of understanding, how much you're supposed to be getting. So if you're going to start exercising with fatigue, you need to start slow and you will build your way up. You're going to exercise in the morning because it'll actually help you get more energy throughout the day, and your pain levels will be a little bit lesser, and it'll help kind of loosen your body up. Expect the first 2 weeks to suck. I needed more naps. I was so tired. I had more pain from it. And I felt like it was just a huge chore. But after that 2 weeks, I began to get, addicted to it. Ask a professional who understands arthritis to help you. So physiotherapist, kinesiologist, maybe a personal trainer has an actual understanding of arthritis. Just make sure they have an understanding of arthritis so they don't recommend, you do any high impact exercises that are going to hurt you. Have 2 routines, one for the good days, one for the bad days. Strength train before your cardio to prevent muscle fatigue if you are going to do them both on the same day. Try the sauna or a hot tub after. I lived in the sauna after exercise before COVID. Count your daily activities as physical activities. So if you're doing groceries, or you're mowing the lawn, or you are walking to the park with your kid or something, that's all physical activity. Might be, light, but still count it. Do the exercises that you like to do. Avoid high impact exercises or going for too long. Give yourself proper rest. Remember that muscle pain is kind of okay as long as it's like not sharp and you can move through it, but joint pain is not okay. Get both moderate to vigorous activity each day and be active throughout the day. Try Nordic walking poles and make sure you take your medications with food and water before you exercise. Have motivating music. Find motivation and inspiration. And then if you're not feeling like your muscles are doing too good, maybe try acupuncture and acupressure massage, because those have certainly worked for me. Now, the exercises that I like to do, and this was a lot of trial error, trying a bunch of different things. I love the elliptical. I love fast walking on a treadmill. I don't run. I go a little bit on an incline. I love going for long walks around my city, hiking, again with Nordic walking poles, swimming, riding my bike, strength training with weights and resistance bands. I love yoga and stretching because it feels amazing. And I consider gardening and mowing the lawn and playing with my son forms of exercises. Now, I kind of touched a bit on tracking my health symptoms and how that really helped me, because it gave me such a deeper understanding of my overall health, not just my RA, but so many things became easier for me. And it gave me so much motivation. But, I learned things like how my sleep impacts my fatigue. I could see graphs doing this. I could see how my fatigue impacts my pain, how my mood impacts my fatigue and my pain, how certain foods may make me feel sluggish or cause pain, how my period affects my mood, fatigue, and sleep, how to watch for patterns. And it also showed me like the efficacy of my medication, supplements, or treatments that I was trying. I used a study from Arthritis Research Canada, but there's a number of different health tracking apps that you can try out. Now, if you're feeling fatigued, it's really important to examine your self-care. Before you go to grab a coffee or, you try a new supplement, ask yourself, are you doing everything that you should be doing to take care of yourself? Because that actually might help with your fatigue. So are you taking all your medications as prescribed? Assess your pain levels. Have you been in more pain recently? Are there things you can do to reduce, sorry, cats. Are there things you can do to reduce your pain and fatigue? Consider your work schedule. Have you been working longer hours? Are you sitting for too long? Are you not getting enough rest? Too much rest? Is it almost the date of your medication? Because the nightmare before infusion. And are you being kind to yourself? Now, if none of these things are helping, And especially if you think your arthritis or another condition is active and maybe contributing to your fatigue, it's really important to speak to your doctor. There are a bunch of different doctors you can ask about your fatigue, and they may all give you tips in some. So you can ask your rheumatologist, your general practitioner, family physician, a nurse practitioner, naturopathic physician, dietitian, physiotherapist or physical therapist for the Americans, kinesiologist, occupational therapists are amazing for trying to navigate life with fatigue. And then also, ask other patients what works for them. Now, I understand fatigue is very, very difficult to live with. And this quote kind of really helps me on those days where fatigue is just a little bit too much. Can't clean up the whole room? Clean a corner. Can't do the dishes? Do a dish. Can't get in the shower? Wash your face. Always look for the thing you can do with the energy and focus you do have. Little wins pave the way for bigger wins. 1% beats 0%. It's from Dr. Glenn Doyle. Now, thank you for listening to me, and I really hope that something I have said today sticks with you and helps you through living with chronic fatigue and arthritis. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. If you would like to contact me later or follow me on the internet, here you are. There's my information, and it's been an absolute honor to be here. Thank you so much.
Hi, thank you. So while I had that presenting, I could not see the chat. Apologize for that. So I didn't see how long I was going over, but I hope that was helpful. And if there are any questions that I can't answer now, I will get back to you all individually.
Oh, yeah. And Eileen, can you stop sharing for a second? Because actually
Yes.
the great thing is that we have a break next. And so we decided since we'll, if you're able to stay a couple extra minutes, we'll do some Q&A into the break and then give people, and if anyone needs to leave, of course, take your break too. So, but yeah, so you have answered some of these questions, one of these wonderful instances where the speaker answers the question as the talk goes along, but just a bunch of people really resonate with the question of how do you explain fatigue to friends and family who just don't get it? How do you get people to understand? Sorry, we're not frustrated, are we?
I think it's something, and I'm going to go back to the relationship I have with my kid's dad. Even though me and him aren't together, we are best friends. And at first, he really did not understand why I was saying, I just can't do that because I'm tired. And then, over time, he eventually picked up how my disease was, and becoming so vocal about what I'm going through kind of showed him. And he's even actually reflected back to me and said, oh, I guess you just don't have the spoons for that, or things like that, right? And so even if you can't fully explain it, they will over time kind of understand what's going on with you. And then if you really, really want to, find something good to show them this video, show them one of my articles, or any article, somebody else talking about it can help.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I agree that having an article to refer back to kind of gives people that processing time sometimes. And a lot of people I just want to acknowledge said, thank you for your vulnerability. This hearing from you is making people feel less alone. So that is absolutely wonderful. And other people just echo how difficult it can be. Dr. Kelly Irwin recommended, or she shared, because remember how you said share anything that helps your fatigue. She shared that green tea and honey are good, and also a sit stand desk at work and a stool. So those are some great ideas too. Actually, that's it for the questions and answers. So we were extremely efficient. So your timing was perfect. Did you have anything else you wanted to say to the audience?
No, I tried to think of every question that people ask me all the time about fatigue. So I was hoping that there wouldn't be many questions at the end, because that means I covered it all. But yeah, if you want to touch base with me, you all know how to get a hold of me now, and please do. And I just hope you're all doing well today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so, so much. This is wonderful.